age group, 73.7% lost their jobs temporarily. 54% of the respondents stated that its working hours had been greatly decreased, and 13% that it had been slightly decreased. 23% started working from home as a result of the pandemic, while the percentage of the younger people was much higher, standing at 36%. Comparing the current financial situation of their household during the pandemic to the one existing 3 months ago, before the crisis, before the onset of the pandemic, 47% of the respondents consider that it had been worsened. Regarding the percentage of the younger, 47.4% of them reported its financial situation as worse than before the pandemic. And there are a lot of other interesting findings. In terms of our qualitative research, focusing on youth unemployment and precarious work among youth, I will not present our key findings. There will be at your disposal, but I will try to wrap up and give some concluding remarks at the end of my presentation. And Mrs. Chair, I think I'm in time. I'm still in time. Aren't I? Okay, thank you. The effects of the pandemic and the loss of income at the EU level were particularly tense for the most vulnerable subgroups of the working population. They particularly impacted the low-wage and precarious workers, despite the temporary policy measures introduced in all the member states, supporting measures. Across the European Union, more than a quarter of workers by the summer of 2020 had lost their jobs, either temporarily or permanently, whereas the effects of the pandemic at a pan-European level influence young people more. Countries that rely more on tourism, such as Greece, seem to have the largest declines in income and in unemployment. I should mention hereby, and at this point, that Crete, the region of Crete, had, at an annual basis in 2020, an increase around 45% in terms of the total unemployment. Is the European region with the higher increase of total unemployment, as I said before, across Europe. It is indicative that in a region very much dependent on tourism, the impact was truly tremendous for all, actually, for all the social groups, but mainly for the vulnerable ones. The sector more affected at the European level are services and accommodation services, with losses of almost 20%. The same trend in higher level is observed in Greece. A significant category of precarious workers is particularly affected, for example, seasonal workers in tourism. Especially young people who are precarious workers are those who have been particularly affected by the effects of the pandemic. In the period 2019-2020, as I said before, the labor market slack in Greece hit young people more than older people, further widening their precarity. The main findings of our secondary quantitative analysis are confirmed from our conductive qualitative analysis as well. Young people seem to be employed in mostly precarious formal work. The main characteristics of precarious formal work, especially when they are a byproduct of contracts, in most cases seem to take a combined form. For example, there is a combination, an increasing combination of a mismatch between the contract and the actual employment in terms of hours, days, earnings, and stamps, and in several cases, a combination of declared and undeclared work. This is a wider tendency to expand and even normalize the forms of precarity within employment in relation to the new generation, especially the combination of declared and undeclared work, but also exclusively undeclared work, as well as in extensive elaboration of working conditions. It seems that there is a new tendency, a new trend, a new labor market dualization that has emerged regarding young people who work in precarious form of employment. Insiders can be considered precarious workers who are employed in a more stable, structured, and less flexible working regime with more normal terms of employment, and outsiders, young people who are the precarious workers, but despite that, they are employed with more flexible and even non-legal working conditions, and with an increased risk of experiencing the so-called phenomenon of terror, the total, whole, complete vulnerability. Another finding of our research is that young people choose, not actually choose, they are forced to choose, to working in precarious jobs, mainly due to livelihood and survival reasons, to get out of their unemployment status, or due to a lack of alternatives. One of our respondents in our research has mentioned the degree of despair as a criterion to seek effectively a job. Both the pandemic and the restrictive measures taken have had a severe impact of the living standards and working conditions of the majority of young people, especially the ones who work in precarious forms and posts of employment. The transformations in the labor market that have been occurred due to the pandemic and the subsequent economic crisis and recession seem to lead to the further deterioration of the employment status of several young people, and consequently to their transition into a much more precarious employment regime, effectively causing a rupture in their already precarious life course. The above-mentioned clearly affect key determinants of young people's political behavior, and increasing frustration and even delegitimization of the political system and the personnel, as well as the welfare state, seem to result in the collapse of public trust among young people. So there is a variety of multi-parametric consequences of this increasing and expanding tendency. The emerging, expanded, and often forced, newly built work normality, with a frequent violation of the labor rights of precariously working young people, and consequently the serious impact on labor relations, seem to lead to a reconstruction of the work ethics, with irregular labor forms start to prevail. These are framed by an enforced load of silence, both on the part of the employers and employees, to which the latter, out of necessity, often consent for reasons of livelihood, survival, and due to the absence of alternatives. All the above mentioned seem to have led to the creation of a new kind of precariat in terms of standing, having as its main components and characteristics insecurity, uncertainty, and reproduced social vulnerability, but also in the gradual awakening of the so-called standard framework of biography of young people, essentially turning into a precarious framework of biography. This implication may be decisive and far-reaching for social cohesion, and the need for a paradigm shift in the labor market and in active employment policies sets a persistent challenge for the whole public policy complex. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Papadakis, for this insightful information about our situation in Greece and in Crete, since our local economy relies so heavily on tourism. Thank you very much. We will go to our next speaker, Mr. Francesco Foglia, expert of economy and EU policies.
Good morning, everyone. Let me share the presentation. Just a moment. I think the screen. I hope you see the presentation. Yes. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be there, meet you again. Meet you, all of you, the organizers of the project 8 City for Building Our Europe. I am Francesco Foglia. I am a PhD candidate in global studies, global governance. And my research is focused on the themes of innovation and EU regional policy. When we read the news on the labor market in general, headlines and analysis are primarily focused on unemployment at regional, national, or European level. And in Italy, people seems to be interested more in unemployment than unemployment, according to the results of a comparison between the keywords on Google Trend in the last year, as you can see from the chart. The blue line is the word unemployment, the interest of the word unemployment. The red line is work or job, the Italian for lavoro, the English one is work and job. And the yellow line is the employment theme. It's just for fun. But how it is composed, the unemployment rate, and what makes the indicator move in the time, however, is not widely known, especially among a younger audience. And I am addressing to younger students, as agreed. So before starting to talk about the main trends of the Italian labor market, let me recall briefly the three key concepts based on the status that an individual can have on the job market: unemployment, employment, and the labor force. These three key definitions. Unemployed persons according to international standards, statistical standards, are all persons 15 to 74 years old, with some variation country by country, who were not employed during the reference week. Reference week is related to the survey, because data on unemployment and unemployment comes from European Labor Force Survey conducted by Eurostat and National Statistical Center, had actively sought work during the past 4 weeks and were ready to begin working immediately or within 2 weeks. Pay attention on the words in red. Employed persons are all persons who worked at least 1 hour for pay or profit during the reference week, or were temporarily absent from such work. Third concept, the active population, or the labor force, is the sum of employed and unemployed persons. Then it's simple to define the unemployment rate as the number of people unemployed as a percentage of the labor force. We can better visualize the ratio there in this slide, and we notice that it is important as long as a person is active in the labor market, she or he is part of the labor force. This is really a crucial point. But I would like to ask you a question. What happens if an unemployed person, maybe after a long period of unemployment, or maybe for other reasons, stops looking for a job? For example, she or he not want to work anymore. The result is that, firstly, the person no longer be included among the unemployed because he's not still active in finding a job, as you can see from the previous slide. Therefore, she or he will be excluded also from the labor force. Then, pay attention, the numerator decreases, the denominator decreases even more rapidly, and as a consequence, the unemployment rate, and for some of you, I suppose that could be really a surprise, the unemployment rate will decrease. Then an increase in inactive population is translated with a decrease of unemployment rate. But what is necessary, this clarification? Because as we see in the next slide, it is crucial to understand both the dynamics of the unemployment rate and its drivers. Let me present now a practical example on that related to the Italian labor market. The first graph, the first chart on the top shows Italy's historical unemployment rate trend, which is currently around 10% in the first quarter of 2021. However, the unemployment rate differs within countries, and it is generally higher in the south than in the north. And this north-south dualism is the main characteristic of the Italian economy. And for each economic indicator, including GDP, innovation rate, poverty rate, and so on. The second graph instead shows the trend of the inactive population in Italy. Currently, in the first quarter of 2021, 14 million Italians are out of the labor force, and it's a really large number, and it represents about 35% of the population of working age, and is the highest proportion of persons outside the labor market in the European Union. For example, the European average of the inactive population is about 27%. In Italy is 35%. But just for a moment, I invite you to look at the period 2020, in particular to quarter 2 of 2020 here, if you see the mouse. It is clear that when the inactive population reached the peak here, the unemployment rate decreases. Improves. There is a minimum. It's actually the paradox. But now we are fully aware of that. An increase of inactive population is associated by definition, is just math, an decrease of the unemployment rate. But the decrease of unemployment rate is a good news or not? By the way, if we look only at unemployment rate, we could say yes, because the unemployment rate is declining, but actually is not. The economy is not going well because of increasing of inactive population that represent a social problem than an economic problem. I will move on the next slide. As you can see from the chart, from the data, focusing only on the inactive population, in fact, it emerged that 70.3% of young Italians between 15 and 34 years, the indicator as NEET, the NEET, not in education or employment or training, they are out of the labor market, 70.3%. This is the highest rate among the European countries in 2020. And then inactive population is a huge problem for our economies. But how can the institution deal with this situation? Of course, not only in Italy, it is a general issue in Europe, as the professor showed a few minutes ago. European and national policy should focus mainly on find the true level of employment, not just focus on the unemployment rate, because it's not a really picture of the economic situation. Then design policies for both unemployed and inactive population. Among the available instruments for member states and regions, I would like to mention these three policies. The youth guarantee, the European Youth Guarantee, of which Italy accounts over 2 billion euros budget for 7 years. And the other instrument of the European Cohesion policy, of which Italy is one of the top beneficiaries, with Spain, Poland, and in particular the European Social Fund, that is designed for fight unemployment and improve social condition of people and young people. And finally, the new SURE mechanism that allows member states to mitigate the indirect impact of the pandemic on the labor market, of which Italy has at its disposal about 27.5 billion euros. Also in this case, is a top beneficiary. In my last slide is just a brief presentation addressed to the student, or to be addressed to students. I would like to suggest two interesting tools for students, for general public, for the analysis, but in particular for the student that could be interested to analyze the country data, for example, on the state of implementation of such policy instruments like Youth Guarantee, European Social Fund. And the first one is the Cohesion data portal. You see a snapshot here, which contains open data and thematic data stories on European cohesion policy, and of course Eurostat, where you can find all the data on the economy and society, including gender statistics for the labor market. So thank you very much for your attention, and really hope to see you again in person, hopefully in the future. I will give the floor to the chair.
Thank you very much to Mr. Francesco Foglia for this important information that you gave us about Europe, and how important it is to find the true unemployment rate, both unemployment and the rate for the inactive population. We will continue with Mrs. Anna Bejic, local project manager in Eskrad, municipality of Eskrad. Please unmute.
Sorry, hello, do you hear me? You all hear me? Do you see my presentation? Yeah. Okay. Do you see my presentation? Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, hoćete vi doći? I have 6 of my colleagues here in my office, but I think we will greet you later. So my name is Anna. I work in municipality Skrad. And here I have my presentation. It is pretty short because this is a really complicated theme, and I think that we need maybe for some things more time. But we tried to explain the general situation in Croatia. So I will start for all of you. Just a moment. Just a moment. Okay, for all of you who doesn't know where is Croatia, but I think you all know, we prepared a short facts about Croatia. So you see how many square kilometers it covers. We have 4.29 million people, 90% are Croats, and minorities are Serbian, Bosnians, Hungarians, Italians. Capital city is Zagreb, situated in north, located in northwest. We are located in northwest part of the Balkan Peninsula. And Croatia is pretty small country, high geographically diverse. Okay, let's start. Okay, and also for those who doesn't know where is Skrad, it's a wonderful mountain village. It's located 700 meters above the sea level in heart of Gorski Kotar. We call it also the green heart of Croatia. We have around 1,000 inhabitants here, and also Skrad, it's scattered pearl necklace below the slopes of the Skrad peak. We all hope that you will see it and that we will have opportunity to show you our small municipality of Skrad. So that is about, kako da maknem ovaj desni dio, jer ne vidim prezentaciju. Just a moment. Just a moment, sorry. Okay, so unemployment situation in Croatia. First of all, I just want to show you this graph. Unemployment rate from 1999 to 2020. Despite the economical revival followed by a recovery on the labor market, Croatia still has one of the highest unemployment rates in the Europe for both the adults and the young population. So here you can see from 1999 to 2020 what was and what is situation in Croatia. We had this crisis from 2008 to 2014, and we see here it's a peak. It's almost 18% of unemployed people. Also, this number decreases going on the 2014, 15, and recovery is from 2050 to nowadays, I can say to 2020. So also we have here a graph that shows youth unemployment rate from also the same years. We see it's almost the same. So the youth unemployment, it means that these are the people from 15 actually to 29 years old. And we see that it is also the peak is in 2013 when was the crisis. I will explain that later. It's important because all these years and all these happenings actually shaped this situation that we have today, considering this labor market in Croatia. And also it decreases from 2013-14 also to nowadays to 2019. Okay, it was this COVID situation, and then it's 2020, 2021. So main economic developments, these are some facts, a summary about these situations, about some, let's say, happenings that led us to this situation that we have today. So, like I said, Croatia is still recovering from this deep and lasting recession. It started to 2009 and it was till 2014. The cumulative drop, so domestic product it decreases 12%. At 2013, also European Union labor market opened for Croatian workers, and it also results with massive immigration, causing the labor shortages in some sectors. In that period, employment has shown moderate post-recession growth, also for some self-employment, of some self-employment, and in total, employment has fallen. See further. So I would like to say also that in Croatia we have undeclared work that is also a problem and that also shapes this labor field. Also the discrimination against certain groups, especially women, are still unresolved in Croatia. Working conditions are considered here among the workers bad or even worse. A quarter of Croatian population is at risk of poverty or social exclusion also. The most vulnerable groups are older people, the unemployed, and the low-skilled. We have highest share of children living at risk of poverty. We have here main economic development facts. It is a summary. So, like I said, the most vulnerable groups are older people, unemployed, and so on. Youth unemployment rate is also high. 2013 was 50% of active population age 15 to 24, and in 2018 was 23.7. Main economic developments, factors in Croatia that had impact on labor market. So like I already said, from 2009 to 2014, it was long-lasting recession, Main drivers of growth after that, from 2015 to 2018, it was net exports and private consumption. Public finances have established a bit in 2015. And we had the first general surplus then. It was the first in 20 years. It was even 0.8%. Also, what was the problem in this economic development and in this, this picture of our labor field? It was the population, negative birth rates, emigration, that affected labor market, health, and pension system. So, I will say something about employment and the labor market. Like I said, economy recovery was slow from this 2014 to 2018 or 2019. Croatia faces also low activity rate among working age population. 2018 saw activity from 20 to 64. So these are the ages, people age. Rate was 71.4%, and it was second lowest in the European Union. Force decreases due to the migration and other facts, like I said. Labor force last 5 years also decreases. It is low activity rate, and it can be result of really various factors. It was, we go in the early 1990s, it was privatization in Croatia, also, and restructuring of the formerly state and owned companies, different forms of retirement. We had war veterans, people with disabilities, and so on. Education also prolonged in Croatia, family caring responsibilities, and so on. So the peak of unemployment rate was 2013. It was almost 80%, 18%, 2018, it was almost 9%. And in the period of 2018, more than 40% of the unemployed are considered like long-term unemployed, which is, I think, we all think it's a big problem. And in Croatia, that has 3 regions altogether, are large regional differences in unemployment and labor market, and the most negative result is in the eastern part of Croatia. We have here some data from the Croatia Bureau of Statistics, and it indicates that in the period from 2008 to 2018, the number of crafts and freelance activities fell by 27%, which might be a large part of the reason for the drop in self-employment area. And this number decreases in 2019 and in 2020 due to new employment measures and inactivities for employment. So also because of the European Union projects and more possibilities with these European projects. So, let's go a bit further. Okay, here we have common factors that, like I said before, that shaped and that are shaping our labor market. So, like you see, as you can see, I believe that this is the situation also in other countries. This is these non-standard forms of work, youth unemployment, school to work transition, which is also the big problem, labor shortage and migration. Like I said in my presentation, when Croatia entered the European Union, the labor field open, wages and labor costs, undeclared work, and the discrimination at the workplace, and the other problems. So I will talk now about these non-standard forms of work. So contract up to 3 months. Usually they're used here in Croatia in agriculture, some retail trades, catering activities, and also in tourism. That Croatia is, it's expected due to this importance of tourism for Croatian economy and its seasonality. Other factors that played part in highest rate of short contracts, these contracts up to 3 months, are institutional labor, legislation, technological digitalization, platform economy, and so on. So youth employment, I listened to my colleagues who were speaking before me, and I see that all this country in this project, 8 cities, they have the same problems with this youth unemployment. So the Croatia also has the same problem. The record with this high unemployment was in also 2013. You see that this year is problematic. In Croatia, it was over 50% unemployed young people, age 15 to 24. And in 2018, it was 23.7%, also aged from 15 to 24. And 70.6% in 2018. So, like I said, we have some problems, school to work transition in Croatia, as a majority of those that have finished or dropped out of education, and they are inactive in this labor market for months after finishing education, or even for years. So this is like I said, the problem for young people. We need to make the stronger connections. We need to change education, and we need to use some programs, maybe from funds to interest those young people to have more praxis in the schools and so on. We will see that later. Also, labor shortages. Like I said, 2013, the Croatia entered the European Union, so the European labor market opened, which was pretty negative for Croatian labor market because its deficiency, it made the efficiency problem in some for some jobs here in Croatia. In the period from 2009 to almost nowadays 2020, 2021, it is the high level of immigration, a high number of emigrated people. Also, and almost half of those who emigrated are in this range from 20 to 39 years. So it means it's 80% in the working age category between 15 and 46. And these numbers are actually threatening the labor market in Croatia, especially in this part of Croatia, in Eastern Croatia. This large immigration of the prime age population caused a labor shortage, especially in accommodation and food service activities, but also in construction, medical, and IT sectors. Last few years, Croatia is facing with a great shortage of working power. The government has tried to overcome this issue by increasing the number of working permits for foreigners, mainly in construction and catering activities, but it seems that this was not enough to increase this number. So we have this problem also with wages and labor costs. Wages increased by 3.5% as aftermath crisis from 2016 to 2018, and minimum wages in Croatia in 2019 went up by 5%. It means that minimum wage in Croatia reached 508 euros. And from 2017, wages in public sector were increased by a total of 6%. So I would like to mention also this undeclared work. According to Eurobarometer, in 2013, about 7% of respondents in Croatia reported to have carried out some undeclared paid activities. A recent study also reports that 9.2% of the adult population in Croatia performed undeclared work, while 6.6% of registered dependent employees received wages in hand. So it is very popular in Croatia. Undeclared work is motivated in Croatia by factors such as the perception of the widespread nature of undeclared work. It is a lack of trust, I would say, the most in formal institutions, high unemployment, and low retirement income. We have also this problem with discrimination at the workplace and the poverty and social exclusion. I can say that women in the labor market are discriminated and they are inactive because of the family or caring responsibilities that they have at home. They have traditional attitudes toward gender roles. Also, it is a bad social policy, lack of kindergartens, nursing homes, though female employment has been growing since 2012 till now, till 2021. Okay, so I would like also now to say some about the measures how to combat this unemployment. The Croatia, we have some policy measures in Croatia that was brought by our government. And the main legislative acts in the field of this labor market, it was the Labor Act, which is introduced in 2014. Most important policy reform changes to the tax reform, government changes to the tax system. We have these three changes. Also the pension system, a retirement age, and penalties for early retirement. And active labor market policies. We need active labor market policies. And we need to improve the practice of using European funds. So I would like to say something about this this part, how to use the European funds. After joining the European Union in 2013, so Croatia became part of Youth Guarantee. First National Youth Program is adopted. First National Youth Program from 2014 to 2017. Also, we have this law on promotion of employment from 2012. It means it's hiring young person up to the age 30 on a permanent contract, not obligated to pay employers contribution up to 5 years. So if somebody actually employs a young person up to 30, that employee doesn't need to pay actually the taxes 5 years. Our Ministry of Demography, Family, Youth and Social Policy, okay, sorry, have a little problem, but nothing to. Imam ga tu. Okay, so our Ministry of Demography, Family, Youth and Social Policy also support this development of regional youth information centers, Croatian qualifications framework and school for life, programs intended to increase link between education system and the work, and also improvement of Croatian pension system, policies in the field of working conditions. We have this Labor Act, and which also improves working time, type of contracts, organization of works, and so on. So this last part is nothing, but I have it here on paper. I will send to you later. I would like to say something about other connections with these EU funds and how we can combat these unemployment problems and situations in Croatia. We need active labor market, also lifelong career guidance. I would like to mention also the Skrad municipality. Skrad municipality is conducting one program, one European program that is from European Social Fund, and the name is Wish for, Zaželi. So we also, the unemployment also decreases with this program concrete in our municipality Skrad. We need to encourage production with the aim of creating new jobs, investing in the small producers. Croatia has funds for lending to small and medium-sized enterprises. Also, we need, we also have these programs, but they need to be more powerful, like lifelong education. And we see that this lifelong education actually has a good impact on our labor market. Also, we need more training programs and employment programs, self-employment benefits, that are already in these European projects. We need to start own businesses. Also in Croatia specific, we need decentralization of main bigger cities. And we need to develop the rural areas, also a stronger social better conditions in rural areas, considering employing policies and social rights, especially for young families with multiple children. We need to stimulate areas with the highest level of unemployment rate. And also reduce the retirement age, give chance to younger people. We need to deal with this education system, like I said before, increase this link between educational system and the world of work, so that the young people can get this first work experience, not to wait for 1 year or more to get a first job, and so on. We need program of support for job retention in the textile, clothing, footwear, leather, and wood sectors. And this program has already been introduced in Croatia. The Ministry of Demography, Family, Youth and Social Politics supports this development of regional youth and also of regional youth information centers. I would like also, this was a short conclusion. I would also like to make a end of this conclusion. Situation on labor market in Croatia is far from satisfactory, and there's a strong need for making new jobs. Like I said, we need a stronger social policy. We need a good and stronger strategy in the use of European funds. A lot of people in Croatia that are running small businesses, they are not informed. They are not, actually, they don't have skills about these new tools that we are using, I would say this, they have technical problems and so on. Social partners and social dialogues are needed. We need to activate more the young people, and we need to make good for younger and for older people in general. So we need more active labor market policy. So this is the end of our short presentation. I would like to thank you all on listening. And I hope that we will see each other live soon.
Thank you very much, Anna Bejic, for all this information about Croatia and SCRAD. We see that a lot is correlated between the countries.
Yes.
So I think as we continue a debate, we will find a lot relations between our countries. You spoke about precarious work, as did Mr. Papadakis, about the high unemployment rate in the country, and about how important it is to have measures to combat this unemployment. We will continue now with Mrs. Katrine Hero, Employers Consultant of Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. Mrs. Katrine Hero.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning, we can
Very
hear
good.
you.
Now I share my presentation. Very well.
Moment, please, Anna, stop your sharing of screen.
Mrs. Anna Bejic must stop share screen.
Loredana, you can stop. You can stop from.
Yes, I try to stop. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now we can go. Okay, we see you can share a full screen.
So I am Katrin Eero from Estonian Employment Insurance Fund. Can you see and hear me now?
No, not see. Now, okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Katrin, sa võid jätkata, me näeme sind väga hästi.
So I am Katrin Eero, employ a consultant of Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund.
Good morning, everybody.
I'm going to give you an unit in Estonia and accounting, including Narva. Significantly, since the restrictions to prevent spread of COVID-19 were established in March of 2020.
The connection is not very good.
Nós olhamos para o dia a dia, o que é que há de democracia e práticas humanistas?
Mrs. Katrine Ero, can you hear us? Should we go to the next speaker and you can maybe see about your connection, or would you like to try again? Yeah. Okay, we can see it now.
Rania, the connection I think is bad.
From the beginning.
Should we go on to the next speaker? I suggest we go to the next speaker until Mrs. Catherine Ero fixes her connection. The next speaker is Mr. David Belosta from the Employment Office in Aragon, yours program responsible. Mr. David Belosta.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Some of them that was like in a crisis of.
Okay, I'm David Bellosta, Eures advisor from Teruel. First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here today and to be able to participate in the ICTs for building our Europe project, especially Laura and Jose from Teruel for the invitation. The presentation will be very brief, and I will try to make a summary of the unemployment situation in Spain. What is the unemployment situation in Spain? Impact of the pandemic on Spain. The pandemic has had a very unequal impact of the population. The stoppage of economic activity particularly affects activity and job associated with relatively low income, hotels and restaurants, cleanings, small business, urban transport. The economic policy measures adopted to mitigate the fall in income, ERTE or temporary employment regulation fields, aid to the self-employed for cessation of activity, the creation of income minimum, vitally, etc. Significantly offset the fall in scope that it would have occurred in his absence. Despite these palliative measures, some groups have suffered a significant deterioration in their income. This is the graphic about unemployment evolution 2017 to 2021. The deterioration, you can see that the difference of the unemployment contract. The pandemic has had a severe impact on employment. The difference compared to the last year at this time is 600,000 more unemployed people. The sectors in Spain, very important, most affected by the pandemic have been the service sector, bars and restaurants, hotels, artistic and cultural activities, and commerce. You can see the monthly evolution of hiring in Spain, 20 and 21, it's big difference, and for sectors. The family particularly concentrates in the social strata that already had lower income. Okay, I don't know what is with my presentation. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. You are now in the monthly evolution of hiring by gender and age.
Okay, I have a problem with the presentation. I'm so sorry. And this is the monthly evolution of hiring by gender and age. It's a big difference for men and women. And this is the graphic for the evolution of hiring by sectors. In Spain, we can see that the service is the most big important sector, and bars and restaurants, the big difference was in this way. It is all. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the presentation. I'm very short. I have a problem with the presentation, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belosta. We see that in Spain, there has been a big impact of the pandemic situation, which is all over the world. We see the increase in the unemployment level due to this pandemic, as is for, I think, all of the European countries. And from what you told us, this is especially in the service sector. Okay, let's try now to go back to Mrs. Iro, if she can hear us, from Estonia.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, we can hear you much better now.
Oh, very well.
Okay.
Then start from the beginning, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm Katrin from Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund, and I'm employer consultant. And I'm going to give you an overview of unemployment in Estonia and Ida-Viru County, including Narva. Unemployment in Estonia has grown significantly since restrictions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 were established in March of 2020. There are about 1.3 million people living in Estonia. On slide, you can see what was the number of unemployed people before the crisis and after that. Unemployment was at its highest in March of 2021, but thankfully it has been starting to decline in the past couple of months. There are 15 counties in Estonia. Ida-Viru County, which is located in the northeast of Estonia and shares the east border with Russia, has the highest unemployment rate in Estonia. If the unemployment rate in Estonia is 8.2%, then in Ida-Viru County it is 13.5%. On this slide, you can see how the unemployment rate has changed in the past years, peaking in March of this year. In Ida-Viru County lives about 134,000 people. In Narva, about 5,900 people. Registered unemployed people in Ida-Viru County, 7,913. Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund's Ida-Viru County Department is divided into 4 bureaus. About half of the unemployed people in Ida-Viru County are located in Narva. On this slide, you can see how the unemployment in Narva has changed. If before crisis, the registered unemployment in Narva was less than 3,000 people, then in March 2021, this number was more than 4,300. Like in Ida-Viru County, the unemployment is declining also in Narva. Let's have a look at the profile of unemployed people in Ida-Viru County. 85% of registered unemployed people belong to a risk group. People with decreased work capability, long-term unemployed, non-Estonian speakers, without professional education, and they are mostly skilled workers, service and sales workers. 51% of unemployed are women, and 49% are men. About 60% of unemployed people are between 25 and 54 years old. And how is the situation regarding job offers? More than 40% of the job offers in Estonia are mediated by the Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. There are 6,168 available jobs in Estonia, and in Ida-Viru County, 810 offers, marked with a blue arrow. Now let's have a look at the numbers of available jobs per month in Ida-Viru County and how it was changed in the last years. The highest need for employees was in May of 2019, and the least jobs were available in April of 2020, during the COVID restrictions. Right now, there is also growth trend, which is partially due to the upturn of the construction sector from spring to fall and the easing of the restrictions. The Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund supports both employees and employers by using different measures. On slide, you can see the main services to support employers and to reduce unemployment. The most popular service is a wage subsidy. It's the support given to hire unemployed persons. Its purpose is to support the hiring of people who are long-term unemployed, young, of decreased working ability, or who have been released from prison. The support measure for Ida-Viru country is shown separately here, and regional support for creating job is in focus in our area. Like other wage subsidies, the amount of the regional support for creating job is 50% of the employee's salary gross. Wage subsidy is paid on the basis of payments declared to the Tax and Customs Board. You can find more about our services in our website. Our official name is Eesti Töötukassa. In addition, Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund has supported surviving the crisis with about 330 million euros from its reserves. From this money, 18 million has gone to Ida-Viru County. The most suffered sectors are tourism, accommodation, and catering. And what are the challenges of labor market in Ida-Viru County? Unemployment has always been very high in Ida-Viru County. The reason behind this is that this county has been an industrial area for a long time, which residents have been involved in energy and mining or textile industry. These are, in context of Estonia, large-scale industries who have made redundancies since the beginning of the current century. People who have been redundant from energy sector have difficulties finding new jobs with the equivalent salary in Ida-Viru County. Ida-Viru County has been and always will be an industrial area. Development of industrial parks indicates that new industrial and logistics companies are interested in this area. People who have been working in the same company for a long time need additional training or education. People in Ida-Viru County have less mobility and are not willing to work outside of their hometown, what is a rather big problem. And now a couple of sentences about funding and cooperation with European Union today and in the near future. Wage subsidies for employers like my first job in Estonia, and regional support for creating jobs are funded by the Estonian European Social Fund, and these contracts end by the end of next year. Contracts that are going to be signed in the next year are funded by the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the Recovery Assistance for Cohesion and the territories of Europe. This is was my short overview about unemployment in Estonia, more specifically in Ida-Viru County. And with this picture of Narva Castle and promenade, I wish you an interesting day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Iro, for this information about the unemployment situation in your country, in Estonia. We see again a lot of similarities here. And of course, we see the importance of and the necessity for having social funds, European social funds to help in the reduction of the unemployment rate. We will continue with Ildiko Jare.
Járai, yes.
Járai.
Járai, oui, yes.
URES advisor.
Yes, I'm a URES advisor in Szeged.
Thank you.
And I work in the government office of Csongrád County, which is located in Szeged. So I would like to speak about the labor market situation in Hungary, focusing in our county, in Csongrád County. So some national data. In Hungary, according to the data of the National Employment Center, the number of registered unemployed was 316,000 in monthly average, which is 26% rise or 65,000 more than the previous year. I would like to move on. In Hungary, the increase of the number of unemployed people is due to the effect of the unfavorable economic situation caused by the coronavirus. The registered job seekers count had the highest peak of 376,000 in July of 2020 and dropped back to 291,000 by the end of the year. Csongrád is a county of medium size. The population of its 60 settlements counted more than 417,000 people at the census in 2011. The number of the population is in continuous decrease. According to the latest data, on the 1st of January 2021, 395,000 people lived in the county and 9.73 million in Hungary. So 4.1% of the country lives in our county. In 2020, Csongrád County had the average number of 8,414 monthly registered job seekers, which is 1,635 persons, or 24% more individuals than the previous year data. In January 2020, we started the year with 6,199 registered people due to the effects of the unfavorable economic situation caused by the coronavirus. In May, June 2020, the number increased to 11,000. From July 2020, the number of the registered people decreased continuously, and by the end of the year, this was less than 7,000. This closing number exceeded by 13% the same period of the previous year. The total number of 316,000 of all Hungarian job seekers, Csongrád County holds only 2.7%. The proportion of registered job seekers inside of the calculated group of economically active population is 4.6% in monthly average in the county, which is 0.9% increase towards the number of 2019. At the end of 2020, it was 3.8%. Compared to other counties, this is the third place, following Győr-Moson-Sopron County and Budapest. A year earlier, we had the 6th place. I would like to go on. In 2020, the total number of registered job seekers in the 7 district employment offices was 28,000. We provide them placement services, information on professions and labor market, as well as we are of assistance to employers' needs. These activities like strengthening cooperation with employers and placement of quality are considered as particularly important. Obviously, being a national network placement service, we search and offer workforce free of charge in any point of the country as needed. In 2020, the number of new positions advertised exceeded the 17,000 in Csongrád County. It was totally 17,336, which is a decrease of 1,181 or 6.4% against the previous year. At the beginning of 2019, the number of 1,297 vacancies of our database overpassed the 18,500 positions during the year. In 2020, concerning educational requirements, 63% needed primary school, 21.5% vocational training, 13% secondary school leaving certificate, 2.5% had to possess a college or a university degree. According to the data of the Hungarian Central Statistical Office, on the 1st of January 2020, the population of the district of Kistelek counted 17,728 persons, which is an increase of 24 persons in 1 year. The population of Kistelek town increased by 108 persons. This is an increase of 1.5%, but out of 4 of the 5 belonging settlements, named Baks, Balázscsak, Csengele, Ópusztaszer, got some decrease. Ópusztaszer has grown with 1 person in count. By the microcensus of 2016 of the Hungarian Central Statistical Office in the district of Kistelek in Csongrád County, 7,764 persons were in employment, which means 928 persons, or 13.6% more than in the census of 2011. The number of job seekers counted 868 in 2011, which has fallen back to 328 persons in 2016. It's a reduction of 62%. The number of inactive and dependents has decreased by 1,000 people, or 9.5%. In October 2016, 9,500 people belonged to this group. In 2020, the district of Kistelek, the number of registered job seekers was around 471 persons compared to the previous year. This was a growth of 74 persons, or 19%. The number of registered job seekers has increased from 430 to 880 to 588 during the period on January to May of 2020, when the number was half-time higher than the data of 2019. Until the end of July, the number of unemployed was more than 500 in the district. Then by the end of December, it has fallen to less than 400 persons. At the end of the year, this was the only district where there was almost no change in the number of unemployed. This was only 1 person more than the closing number of the year before. 5.6% of the job seekers registered in the county live in this district. Kistelek had the highest proportion of registered job seekers, 6.1% inside the economically active population in monthly average in the county. And some numbers by main characteristics. There are more women between the registered job seekers. There are 224 men and 247 women out of the 471 registered job seekers. This proportion is nearly the same in the county. The proportion of women is 53% in the registration. In this district, the proportion with low educational background, it means with maximum primary school education, represents 37.5%. This is 25.5% in the county. With vocational training, 28%. This is 25% in the county. 30% has secondary school leaving certificate. This is 38.5% in the county. And 4.5% of job seekers has a college or university degree, which achieves 11% in the county. The permanent job seekers monthly average number in the county, those who have been in registration at least for a year without interruption, is 1,469 persons, which is 65 persons less against the previous year. This proportion is 17.5% inside the whole number. The highest number of permanent job seekers can be found in the district of Kistelek between registered job seekers. This is 24.6%. In 2020, more than 1,000 labor demands were presented for employment in the district, which contains vacancies to be filled with subvention, wage subsidy, labor cost subsidy, public employment. The number is 11% lower against the previous year. Public employment programs have an important role in reducing number of job seekers. In 2016, 498 persons. In 2018, 269 persons. In 2019, 204 persons worked in the frame of public employment programs in the district of Kistelek. In 2020, in monthly average, 171 persons were involved in public employment programs, 16% less than in the previous year. With the help of national and European Union programs, in 2019, 554 persons. In 2020, 621 persons received help in finding or keeping a job by training, wage, or other kind of subsidy or similar aid. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Yarai, for this insightful information about Hungary. We see again here that the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, has had a strong impact on the labor force. We also see the age groups that are the similarities again so far in the European countries with the high percentage rate of the specific age groups, the young, in the unemployment rate, as well as the low skilled workers and low education of people, and that way not able to be candidates for the jobs, even if they open. So this is a situation across Europe as we see it so far. Thank you so much. We will continue with Mrs. Anna Siracariu, Victoria Municipality.
I'm here. And I will load my presentation. I am today. I'm here together with my colleague Ionut Stofan. In fact, he's the one who made the presentation for today's meeting. He is here with us, and I will share the screen. First of all, I would like to tell you a few words about Victoria. We are situated in Romania. As many of you know, we are a medium country with 19 million citizens. And Victoria Common is situated in the northern part of the country. It is a common with the population of 4,500 citizens. What is different from the other people, the speakers before us, is that in Romania, in Romania, we still have a great part of the population that works in agriculture. And here you can see that in 2017, there were 22.9% employed population in agriculture, which is different from the other countries of Europe, where this percentage is only 5%. What is different in Romania about labor market is that Romania is the country with the most immigrants in the European Union, with over 3 million Romanians living in Europe and living and working abroad. The unemployment rate in Romania was lower, and it reached a percent of 2.9 before the health crisis. And in March 22, this rate was 5.6%. This is what happened in Romania with coronavirus isn't different at all with what happened in other countries. So we had a current crisis in all the fields in the economy. And here you can see the employment rate in the third trimester of 2020. I won't read this because you can see them. The work duration of working along the week reduced also due to these events, and the figures are here. Tourism, leisure, and hospitality jobs were most affected by coronavirus because restaurants and resorts are temporarily closed, as in Greece, and it's in fact as all over Europe. And another field which was affected is transport, especially air transport. The number of unemployed people is so small because we are a small community, and because many people deal with agriculture. And as you can see, in March 21st is 64 people comparing to February 2020, where is 48 people. Being a small community, we have no other special situations here, and we are happy that we are close to Iași, which is the second city of Romania, and this helps us, our community, to find jobs not only in agriculture but in other fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Anna
and
Risacario.
and
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we see that Victoria was not so much affected by the pandemic, the coronavirus, as far as unemployment, because in this specific place in Europe, it is small, it's not densely populated, and also it has one characteristic that it is involved in agriculture, and mostly agriculture. So I guess that most are self-employed and have their own land, maybe?
Yes, and there are small farms here in the commune.
Mm-hmm. And the products are sold within the county?
Yes, because they are they haul together. They have a market where they can sell their products.
Okay.
I can mention that lots of products are going to the nearest city, bigger city, Iași, where are living around 2 million of people. So the market is big. So we don't have enough products in order to supply that big market.
Yes, there is a big request for our products.
That's very good. Okay, thank you so much. And now we will continue with Mr. Armando Joa Santos, Institute of Employment and Professional Training, Director of the Barcelos Employment Center.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm gonna make my presentation. The municipality have asked me to talk about the issues here in this program. I will talk about the employment situation in Portugal and EU policies that will help us and did help us. I'm gonna share my screen. Just a moment, please. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Let me see, where is it? Here. Okay, is everybody seeing that? Okay, I'm not started for the end. So Portuguese unemployment and EU policies. Does everybody hear me? Yes? Okay, thank you. First of all, I will talk about coronavirus and unemployment in Portugal. In second place, benefits for unemployment in Portugal. Third place, the EU help. And at least in the last one, the unemployment actually. So coronavirus pushes Portugal jobless rate to 7% in June. This is data from 29 July of 2020. So at that moment, Portugal's unemployment rate rose 7% in June from a revised 6.9% in May, as tens of thousands of jobs were wiped out amid the coronavirus pandemic. Officially, data showed on Wednesday, so in 29 July. Around 180,000 jobs have gone since February, a month before a 6-week-long lockdown. So we went in lockdown and automatically the unemployment have raised. Women as usual, and people under 25 years old, as usual, have been hit the hardest, with the jobless rate among Portugal's young people up 4.2 percentage points to 25.6% in June. An example of the impact in Portugal is the region of Algarve that usually packed with visitors, but now at that moment, and actually was nearly desert, was badly hit with a number of unemployment in June jumping to 231% to more than 20,000 people. This is figures from my Institute of Employment and Professional Training. The people in this situation have benefits granted from the government that are unemployment benefits, social employment benefits, and partial unemployment benefits. I'm not will talk about about these issues, but I suppose that in your countries you have similar benefits also. In what situation they can claim that benefits? Workers who are resident in Portugal, they had an employment contract and have become unemployed, of course. They have suspended their employment contract on the grounds of wages arrears. They have ceased working voluntarily. This is the main reason or the main situation that could give him to the employer the benefits, and they are ex-recipients of disability pensions who are deemed capable of working following a work capability access. What conditions do they need to meet? They must be beneficiaries, must be resident in Portugal, that will be involuntary unemployed, and must be capable of working and available for employment. Beneficiaries must be registered as job seekers at Centro de Emprego, here at Job Center, in their area of residence. Beneficiaries must meet the minimum qualified period requirement, 16 days of paid unemployment with registered earnings in the 20 calendar months immediately prior to the date of unemployment. So the UA help, the main tool for mitigating the negative impact of the COVID-20 outbreak on the labor market has been temporary workforce reduction programs involving either a temporary reduction in working programs or a temporary suspension of the contracts. A scheme used through Europe as the end of April at that moment, and actually also, it is estimated that such reduction has been requested for 27% of the US workers. Portugal has been no exception, and it will also receive around 6 billion euros from the youth, from the SURE program to help cover the costs of the temporary workforce reduction programs implemented. Of course, as we well know, if this measure didn't was impacted in other countries, the employment for sure it has been worse. By sector, also no official figures have been published. We estimate more than half of the workers affected by temporary workforce reduction programs belong to the manufacturing, vehicle trade and repair, and accommodation and catering sectors. Catering sectors was very sensible to this pandemic. In the accommodation and catering sector, more than half of workers will have been affected under these programs in early June and July. On the other hand, around 25% of employees working in manufacturing and in trade and repair offices were also affected under the temporary workforce reduction programs. Another solution to keep companies active has been teleworking. In a country where prior to the pandemic, 60.5% of people in employment had regularly or occasionally teleworked, in its estimated that in April, 38.3% of Portuguese employees began working from home as a result of the health crisis. This is a higher figure than in countries such as Germany, 36.9%, or France, 37.2%. In the same regard, it is estimated that over 1 million employees worked entirely or almost entirely from home in Q2, which is equivalent to 23.1% of the employed population. These are significant figures. It's because that I show you, considering that some estimated places Portugal teleworking potential at around 30%. So here is a figure with the sectors that has been impacted with the pandemic and the teleworking potential that we are talking about. So if you see here, the retail, transportation, and accommodation catering is very difficult to work in teleworking, and but in the information and communication and in professional, scientific, administrative, and supporting activities, the numbers are very, very, very good. So the unemployment rate in Portugal now, as you see, July, January in 2018, July 2018, January 2020, July 2020, and now January 2021 in the last quarter or trimester. The unemployment rate in Portugal has been lower due to the control of the pandemic and reopen of the activity here in Portugal. So this is these are the sources that I will find the information, of course, and this is the end. And I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'm available for any question that you would have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armando Santos. And we continue with the second session with the local dialogue with students from the Faculty of Science. If we have some students here with us today and they would like to ask questions, you can also write in the chat.
Do not have a question, I think, Renia. Just before I see a hand in the chat, but now I not see. So, this debate was interesting for the presentation because we have seen what is the situation in each country, in each city. In a small city is Heraklion, or medium city is Teruel, or a small city as Gerace or Victoria. The most important things is to understand what can be the role of Europe about this theme, about this policy for the employment. I don't know if the speaker from Heraklion is with us or leave. Renia?
Mr. Papadakis has left because he had another presentation. He had told us from the beginning that he had to leave.
Okay. I think it is important to reflect about the role of Europe, of the European Union, about this important topic for Europe after the coronavirus crisis. But before, the situation was not the same in all the region of Europe. But in another way, the European Union have not specific competence in this field of laboratory market or employment. But the competence is from member states, I think. If there is some questions.
I believe that Europe is helping with the funds available. I believe that they can be even more funds within the next period, 2021-2027, from the ESF. And it's very important to make good use of the funding opportunities to reduce the unemployment rate in our countries.
Okay. If there is some other contribution from some participants. No question, no other contribution. Okay. Rania, I think we can finish if we not have some other contribution from some participants.
I'd like to thank everyone for attending here, for all the speakers, all the insightful information. Thank you very much. Thank you, Loredana, for everything, for this project, being the lead partner. And thank you all for your collaboration.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you to you, Renia, for this moderation of this event. Thank you to all participants. And I hope we will restart with this event, our project, and I hope to see you in presence in the next event. I don't know if it will be possible, but I hope. And we have to try to reconnect people and reconnect Europe after this big crisis. And thank you again to everyone. And thank you to our speakers. And see you tomorrow for the second part of our event of the project. Thank you to all and goodbye.
Thank you, Loredana.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye all.
See
See
you
you
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.